government vows to stay out of the war as Trump demands help from allies with the Strait of Hormuz. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
The answers you need
from the people in the know.
This is Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
It's the question members of the Carney government can't dodge. What role, if any, will Canada play in the war in the Middle East? It's a question that was put to the Minister of National Defense, David McGuinty. He was on Cape Breton Island for an announcement about launching Canadian satellites. But he was peppered with questions about Canada's role in this conflict, with U.S. President Donald Trump demanding help from allies in clearing the Strait of Hormuz.
Let me maybe go back to the context of the situation in the Middle East. It's rapidly evolving. Every several hours, I get updates on some of the risks. There is a war being prosecuted by two states, and there is a response from another. The situation is in flux. It's evolving. But I want to be very clear on this. This is a point I've made in my speech in the House. I'll make it again. Canada was not consulted before the prosecution of this particular war. Canada is not involved in the prosecution of this war, and Canada has no intention of being involved in the prosecution of this war. So there has been no formal ask of Canada with respect to playing a deliberate offensive role in the prosecution of this war. So that's where we stand today.
McGuinty said the priorities for Canada right now are to get Canadians in the region to safety and to make sure any members of the Canadian forces are out of harm's way. As for Canada helping with the situation in the Strait, McGuinty said they're considering options.
Our first and foremost priorities were twofold. One, get Canadian citizens out of harm's way if they wanted to get out of the region. And we are working on that hour by hour, 24 hours a day with teams here and teams in the Middle East. And two, making sure that any members of the Canadian Armed Forces, any personnel who are in the region, were out of harm's way and were safe and sound. And that is the situation.
So no desire to send naval ships, and you haven't had an ask from the U.S., but will you move forward with sending with any military support for Gulf countries looking for support? The question of assistance to neighboring Gulf countries is one that we're considering. It will depend on the nature of any kind of ask. It will depend on the nature of what assistance we can provide. For operational reasons, I can't go into any more detail than that, except to say that these would be considered thoughtfully. And so we will, if there's any news on that front, we will announce it.
U.S. President Donald Trump has appealed for countries to help clear the Strait of Hormuz to ease the global energy crunch. He slammed NATO countries that are refusing to help.
I think we have one or two that will not do it, that we've been protecting for about 40 years at, tens of billions of dollars, Mr. Speaker. So I'll be reporting that to you in the House and the Senate. And I'll say, why are we protecting countries that don't protect us? And I've always felt that was a weakness of NATO. We were going to protect them, but I always said, when in need, they won't protect us. Now, this isn't need. Need would be one of the big boys. But I will say that we built the greatest military in the world, and we protect people. And if we need their mine boats, or if we need anything, any piece of apparatus that they may have because of a situation that they have, they should be jumping to help us, because we've helped them for years stay out of wars.
Over the weekend, Trump told the Financial Times of London that NATO countries would face a very bad future if members didn't help in the Strait of Hormuz. But he also said the United States doesn't need anybody.
I don't do a hard sell on them, because my attitude is we don't need anybody. We're the strongest nation in the world. We have the strongest military by far in the world. We don't need them. But it's interesting. I'm almost doing it in some cases, not because we need them, but because I want to find out how they react. Because I've been saying for years that if we ever did need them, they won't be there. Not all of them, but they won't be there. I was very surprised with the United Kingdom, because the United Kingdom 2 weeks ago, I said, why don't you send some ships over? And he really didn't want to do it. I said, you don't want to do it. We've been with you. You're our oldest ally. And we spend a lot of money on, NATO and all of these things to protect you. I mean, we're protecting them. We're working with them on Ukraine. Ukraine's thousands of miles away, separated by a vast ocean. We don't have to do that, but we did it. Well, Biden did it. I mean, I have to be honest with you. Biden got taken to the cleaners. But we worked with them in Ukraine. We don't need to work with them in Ukraine. And then they tell us that we have a mine ship around, and they don't want to do it. I think it's terrible.
The Prime Minister of the UK is Keir Starmer. He had a meeting with Prime Minister Carney just yesterday. Starmer told journalists he's been speaking with Trump and added that talks are ongoing about a viable plan for the Strait, but that it's not easy.
There have been discussions going on in relation to a viable plan. We want to make sure that that involves as many partners as possible. That's been our stated objective here, particularly talking to European partners, inevitably talking to Gulf partners and to the US, because we need a credible, viable plan if we can. And as I said a moment ago, this is, to say the least, not easy. It is not straightforward, and therefore we have to make sure that we've got that credible plan in place. As to what the precise options are, as I say, mine hunting systems of ours are already in the region. We've already spoken about what we can do in relation to anti-drone capability. But this isn't just about what the UK can do. It's about how we play a part in bringing others together behind a viable plan. So that's where we're at the moment. Well, we're looking through the options. It is difficult, of course. It's difficult. There's no hiding that. But that's what we're working on in terms of a viable plan, because ultimately we need to get the straits opened. Otherwise, the price of energy will remain very high for reasons that everybody understands.
Prime Minister Carney didn't take questions from the news media yesterday. However, he did have a meeting with King Charles III. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now You Know with Rob Snow
Returns on News Radio.
There is a bill in the Senate, and if it ever becomes law, it would declare that Canada finally has a national bird. Joined by Rosemary Thompson, Vice President, Royal Canadian Geographical Society, and it's great to hear from you today.
Yes, good to hear your voice, Rob. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you. You're a welcome distraction from the woes of the world, Rosemary Thompson, today. This is a very, very interesting topic. If this bill passes, what would Canada's national bird be?
Well, Rob, we've been working on this at Canadian Geographic for more than a decade. We had a competition in 2015, and 50,000 people voted on what bird they thought should be the national bird of Canada. And there were many contenders for this, by the way. But the jury decided that the gray jay, which is also known as the whiskey jack or the Canada jay, is the perfect bird to be the national bird for Canada. And I think we need these types of things to bring us together. And this wonderful little bird is actually all over the country, a very hardy bird. And so that's why it was the pick.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about the Canada jay, the gray jay, the whiskey jack. Why is it such a worthy contender?
Well, there's a whole bunch of reasons. One of them is that it really is right across Canada. It goes into the boreal forests and the mountain ecoregion. So you would find them in Alberta, but you also find them in every province or territory of Canada. And that's not the case with many birds in Canada. There's about 22 million gray jays across Canada. So we also have in Canada 82% of the global population of gray jays. And so that's part of the reason why we really like it. Another reason is that it doesn't migrate. So unlike, loons or the Canada goose, or many other species. The gray jay actually stays in Canada through the winter. They're very hardy, and so that's why we think they're the perfect pick.
Okay. I remember when you were running this contest, you, as you say, 50,000 votes, you had a lot of feedback, and there were a lot of popular choices. This came out on top, but what were some other popular types of birds that Canadians
we
were
had
thinking
the
about?
loon. Listen, everyone loves the loon, right? So the loon was very popular. And of course, when you're out on a lake in the summertime and you hear the call of the loon, there's really nothing like it. It's magic. However, the loon is already been picked. It's the provincial bird of Ontario. And so that was part of the reason why Canadian Geographic felt that the gray jay would be a better choice. There were other ones,
what were
too,
some
though.
others?
Yeah, I mean, the Canada goose, gosh, we all know it.
Sure. Yeah.
Again, a very well-known bird across the country. But again, we thought, but it migrates. I have them actually close to my home, and they come every summer. And I saw a flock of them last week, and it was like, oh, spring is coming. But then they leave in the fall. And so that was why we thought we should have a fresh and different choice. And that's why the gray jay came through.
What's the reaction been like in Parliament to this bill? As I understand it, you're getting a lot of feedback from wildlife and scientific organizations. Prominent Canadians have written to senators in support of the legislation. What can you tell us about that?
Well, what I would say is interesting is that when we started this 10 years ago, we thought it wouldn't take this long. It has been just over a decade. And so we're quite heartened to see that the Senate is trying to bring this through now. And we have seen lots of support from other organizations. For instance, Birds Canada, which is one of the major conservation organizations in the country that, works on counting birds, looking at bird conservation, tracking birds. They've been extremely supportive as well. And so, you need it's hard to believe, Rob, that you actually need a big group of people to move things through Parliament Hill. But we did, we started working on it 10 years ago, and 50,000 Canadians took part. And I think it's because, what is it that brings us together as a country? Nature. I mean, it's one thing that we absolutely love about this country. It doesn't matter where you're from. To be in nature, to be in the forest, to hear a bird, it's part of the Canadian experience. And we just think right now it's such a good time to do these types of things because the world is a complex and not always the greatest place. And if we can find, some joy in nature, we think it's a great idea.
How unique, finally, is Canada among other countries in that it doesn't have a national bird?
Good question. I mean, we've had a national flag since 1965. We think it's high time for a national bird. I mean, I haven't done the international work to see, obviously the bald eagle is the United States. We have amazing bald eagles in Canada. We could have picked the eagle, but we wanted something that was distinctly Canadian. And because the gray jay does not migrate and is in every province or territory, and is very hardy, by the way, it's a very smart bird. If you meet a gray jay out in the woods, you'll find that they're curious. They're going to come up and see you. They're quite friendly. They have a very happy call. And so people that we spoke to, people that were conservationists, and some of the top experts in Canada felt that it was kind of the perfect symbol of Canada, a friendly, bright, cheery, welcoming bird. That's yes. Canadians, and so that's why we picked the Canada.
And today, in this part of the country today, with the weather that we're having today, a very hearty bird as well. So a very very worthy contender. Yeah. Thank you so much, Rosemary Thompson. All the best with the effort, the ongoing effort. Yeah. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Rosemary Thompson, Royal Canadian Geographical Society. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
Gas prices. Not much of a change in gas prices overnight across the country. Gas in the Halifax and surrounding area remains where it was after the provincial regulator allowed a rise in gas prices over the weekend. But still up there, close to $1.69 a liter in most places, just shy of that. Here in the National Capital Region, Ottawa and the surrounding area, we are higher than that, hanging above $1.70 a liter. It's about $1.65 a liter in the Kitchener area. In Vancouver, let me tell you, it is some serious pain at the pump with gas prices for regular unleaded across Vancouver now going for more than $2 a liter, about $2.04 a liter, and could go higher this week. Now, on the commodities markets, WTI oil futures have traded as high as $98 US a barrel today and as low as $93 US a barrel, and currently sitting at about $94.30, a gain of 2% on the day. Across the United States, according to AAA, the driving club, the average price in the United States is $3.69 US a gallon. So when you account for the currency conversion, that's about $1.37 a liter in Canadian dollars. So maybe you're feeling like you need to win the lottery to afford to take a gas these days. If that's the case, your next chance comes tonight. Tonight's Lotto Max jackpot is $40 million. Tomorrow's Gold Ball jackpot is $12 million for the 649, plus the traditional $5 million 649 prize. In sports, it's March Madness getting underway now for NCAA basketball. There are 68 schools competing for basketball glory. Duke is the number one seed, perennial powerhouse Duke, where fans will be poring over their brackets and making their picks and complaining when their brackets get blown up because of upsets. According to researchers at Harvard University, the odds of someone ever getting the entire March Madness bracket correct, in other words, picking every winner, the odds are between 1 in 120 billion to 1 in 9.2 quintillion, and they say it'll never happen, ever, in our lifetime. In the World Baseball Classic, it will be Venezuela versus the United States in the final. That game goes tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern time, as tuning up continues for the Toronto Blue Jays. Opening day for the Toronto Blue Jays is now just 10 days away. It's also the home opener at Rogers Center, March 27th, against the visiting Athletics. Toronto Blue Jays are owned by Rogers. Rogers also owns this radio station. On this day in Canadian history, March 17th, in 1955, there was a massive riot on St. Catherine Street in Montreal that was sparked by NHL President Clarence Campbell suspending Maurice the Rocket Richard for the remainder of the season because his stick hit an on-ice official during an on-ice melee with the Boston Bruins. It was a riot that lasted for 7 hours. More than 100 people were arrested. It became known as the Richard Riot. And in 1985, Prime Minister Brian Mulroney welcomed U.S. President Ronald Reagan to the Chateau Frontenac for a meeting that became known as the Shamrock Summit. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone, to all those celebrating. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
It's time for our Tuesday Newsday political panel. That means it's time for Focus Alberta. We do that every Tuesday. Joining us today are Stephen Carter, president of Decide Campaigns. Good to hear from you again, Stephen Carter. Welcome back.
Thank you so much.
And Matt Solberg is partner at New West Public Affairs. Matt Solberg, great to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you. Great to be here.
I want to start with kind of a big picture view just of the political landscape in this country and how Alberta fits in, because recent polling would suggest there has been a noticeable increase in support for the Carney Liberals in Alberta. The Liberal Party is not leading in Alberta in any of those polls, but it has certainly narrowed the gap. Matt Solberg, why do you think that's the case?
Well, look, I think the single biggest reason is that Mark Carney continues to not be Justin Trudeau. And I think that the public is still enjoying that change and that contrast in leadership that Carney has brought to the table. So I think that's the number one reason. But you continue to see a bit of a love in here with Premier Smith, which is obviously quite helpful. And I think a bit of a proof point that voters look at in terms of determining whether or not these federal overtures to the province are real or if they're just lip service. So as long as his leadership continues to have the sort of endorsement of the premier, I think that makes a world of difference here in Alberta.
Okay, so he has the premier's seal of approval so far. Stephen Carter, what do you think is going on?
I think I'm intrigued by that response from Mr. Solberg. I find it a little bit that the endorsement of the premier seems a little weak, given that she's bringing forward 9 referendum questions, of which most of them are designed to, in some fashion, weaken the federal government. And I think that his comment about about Mark Carney not being Trudeau is interesting. And I think that Pierre Poilievre continues to be Pierre Poilievre. That's really why we're seeing the dramatic decrease in support for the federal Conservatives across the country, not just in Alberta. Since he was confirmed as the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, his numbers have tanked. It's not just Mark Carney doing a good job, although I think he is doing a good job. It is Pierre Poilievre being seen to be doing such a terrible job.
Okay, do you think Albertans have an issue with Pierre Poilievre, Mr. Carter?
I do. I think that there is no other reasonable explanation when we have had such a lifelong hatred of the Liberal Party for the Liberals to be taking such an upswing when there's a leader that has been in place now for a number of years. I think that we've grown tired of him, and we're far more interested in the new guy than we are with the old guy.
That's interesting. What do you think about that, Matt Solberg? Do you think Albertans are growing tired of Pierre Poilievre?
I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't say they're growing tired of Pierre Poilievre. I think that the issues that allowed Pierre Poilievre to find early success as a leader are no longer the issues that are top of mind for Canadians and for Albertans. And so I think, the Trump factor cannot be ignored. Even in a province like Alberta, the president of the United States remains incredibly unpopular. And so as long as Carney proves a useful foil against the president of the United States, it doesn't leave a lot of room for Pierre Poilievre to grow his base of support. And so I think part of it is a victim of political circumstances. I'm not going to pretend that Poilievre hasn't been facing some political duress. These floor crossings obviously do have an impact. But if you look at every bit of public polling over the last 6 months, the number one issue on the minds of Canadians is not the U.S. president anymore. It's affordability. And that is the one issue in which I think Poilievre has been most effective. So, I think there's an opportunity for a bit of a course correction here and a bit of a political correction. So long as affordability remains top of mind, Pierre continues to message around that. And if Prime Minister Carney is not able to deliver wins that seem to address affordability concerns, then I think you could see those numbers change.
Okay. About a year ago, we had a federal election. The Liberals didn't do very well. Won 1 seat in Calgary, 1 seat in Edmonton. That was it. Now they have 3 because of the floor crossing of Matt Genereux. There's a forecast today that suggests if an election was held today, the Liberals would win 200 plus seats, suggesting that they're going to pick up seats in Alberta. If that's the case, where would the Liberals be most likely to win seats in Alberta? Stephen Carter, what do you think?
I think that, first of all, I think Matt and I will both agree projections are a little bit body. We shouldn't necessarily be basing too much on projections, but I do know that in Calgary, we're looking at pickups in Calgary Centre and Calgary McKnight with an outside chance on Calgary Skyview. So that's some additional seats. Edmonton Millwoods, Edmonton Ellerslie. There are a number of seats up in Edmonton that become viable in a scenario where Pierre Poilievre has continued to fall and Mark Carney continues to grow. Basically, though, what we used to call Redmonton, with the left-leaning side, most of the seats in Edmonton are actually in play under this type of projection model. I don't necessarily think that that's the case. I think that the best case scenario for the Liberals remains 6 or 7 seats in the province of Alberta. But maybe I'm just being a little bit too negative, and Mr. Solberg has a different idea.
What do you think, Matt? What do you think?
No, I agree. First off, I would agree that projections are dangerous and that campaigns matter. And so these numbers that we're seeing today are very unlikely to be what we see on election day. But in terms of where the seats are most likely in play, I think it's the seats that Mr. Carter identified. It's urban Calgary, it's urban Edmonton, and you can't forget, Redmonton. Conservatives used to benefit from a split on the left, and we're not seeing that today. I think that the federal NDP have spent a long time in the wilderness, and depending upon how their leadership election goes in just a week or so time, they could spend a lot more time in the wilderness here, especially in Alberta. But those things will matter immensely, and we'll see what comes on election day. But I do think urban Alberta is likely to be in play.
I, for one, am looking forward to seeing how LEAP Manifesto 2.0 goes over in Alberta if Avi Lewis wins the NDP leadership. Be right back. It's Focus Alberta today on our Newsday panel. This is News Radio.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues
on News Radio.
It's Focus Alberta today. Matt Solberg is partner at New West Public Affairs. Stephen Carter's president of Decide Campaigns. 1 year of Prime Minister Carney. That was Saturday, first anniversary of Prime Minister Carney being sworn in. How do you think Albertans view him? Do they view him as someone who has generally been good for the province, or is it more of the same old Liberals from Ottawa? Stephen Carter, what do you think?
Well, I think that people still view him as a positive. I think that the rumble in Calgary and Edmonton is that this is a more progressive, conservative style of government than it is actually a liberal style of government. And frankly, I think that Albertans like that. I think that we've always been progressive, conservative in our hearts, and this is a government that seems to be reflecting those values. Having said that, the proof will be in the pudding. There's a memorandum of understanding between the government of Alberta and the government of Canada. And if Premier Smith and Prime Minister Carney aren't able to come to some sort of terms as the deliverables on that memorandum come due, I think that Albertans will soften on both the Premier and the Prime Minister.
Matt Solberg, what do you think?
I think Albertans have given a lot of grace to Prime Minister Carney. This past year seems to have gone by rather quickly, just given the magnitude of challenges that the Prime Minister has been dealing with and that have been occupying the minds of Albertans. At the end of the day, I think the identifying what the outcome of the MOU is correct. I think that for a number of Albertans, they're looking at a pipeline and whether or not this MOU leads to an actual proposal and pipeline project being built as sort of the outcome that they're wanting. So the proof will be in the pudding. So far, though, in terms of saying the right things and responding to concerns from Alberta, the Prime Minister has done a good job on that. But how much runway does he have? I I think some of the cues on that will actually come back or come from the Premier. And so as long as the Premier is willing to give him some more room, I think that, voters who otherwise would vote Conservative will continue to look at Carney and perhaps, offer them their vote in the next election.
All right, let's move on to something else. There's going to be a third-party provincial review of Calgary's water woes and what happened with that critical water main. But what are the chances this becomes a Nenshi witch hunt, that the UCP tries to leverage this for political gain against the person who is now the NDP leader in that province? Matt Solberg, what's your comment on that?
Well, I think that there's a legitimate appetite to try and figure out what exactly has happened here, and what to expect in the years to come. So some of that, I think, will require, justifiably reviewing past briefings and decisions of previous councils, including councils led by former Mayor Nenshi. The risk for the province here is setting expectations high that this panel will produce some sort of smoking gun that points to somebody, whether it's Nenshi or someone else, as being a single point of blame for the problems of today. If the panel doesn't produce that, then I think there's going to be legitimate questions about why have we done this. So the potential for it to become a witch hunt is there. But I also think that the rationale for doing this is justified. People don't want to have to continue to ration water in the months to come and years to come without understanding how they get out of this mess and frankly how they got into it in the first place.
Stephen Carter, what do you think?
I think infrastructure is expensive. I think that Albertans tend to not want to spend money on infrastructure or anything else for that matter. We want to have oil and gas revenues cover most of the expenses that we have. We don't want to increase taxes. So Dan Williams has basically set up a panel that the conclusion is already set. We already know that this is going to be blamed on Naheed Nenshi for doing the thing that Alberta government is doing right now, which is keeping taxes artificially low and deferring expenses, in terms of keeping up with infrastructure payments. The Alberta government and the municipal governments are a partnership, and ultimately they have failed in the water main area, but they're also failing in roads. They're failing across the city in different ways. Our recreation centers are falling apart. Our community centers are falling apart. That's all because we don't want to pay the taxes that it costs to keep our infrastructure in shape. Whether you're the provincial government or the municipal government, that has been a true story. And unfortunately, this panel is not going to discover that. What they're going to do is throw the blame onto the opposition leader, Naheed Nenshi.
Interesting. Okay. When we come back, Alberta in the national spotlight over its government's plans for healthcare reform and allowing dual practice in healthcare. That's next on News Radio.
You have questions.
Now you know with Rob Snow has the answers.
On News Radio.
Here is Stephen Carter and Matt Solberg for Focus Alberta. There were protests in cities all across Canada this week, all over the Alberta government's plan to allow dual practice in healthcare, allowing some physicians to work in a private for-profit setting and in the public healthcare system. Protesters want the federal government to intervene. They say that violates the Canada Health Act. But what are the chances that Premier Smith would ever back off that plan, roll it back? What do you think, Matt Solberg?
I think the chances of her backing off are quite low. I think that Premier's in a spot where she knows that increasing access to healthcare is quite dependent upon increasing the number of healthcare professionals in the province, and creating incentives for physicians to move to Alberta, register here in the province, and set up practice is something that is obviously a priority, but also something that Alberta is competing against the rest of the world on. So if there are ways to make this a more attractive place for a doctor to come and practice, and to do so in a way that doesn't necessarily mean spending more directly from the provincial treasury on those doctors, then I think that's something she's going to stick with. I think the question comes down to, do you want to pay more in taxes to pay more doctors directly, or to pay doctors more money to make it more attractive? Or do you want to find other alternative models that are used quite successfully in other countries around the world to do this? And so I think the Premier is going to be pretty strong-headed on this.
Stephen Carter, what do you think?
I absolutely agree that she's going to be completely bullheaded on this. I think that, unfortunately, it breaks the Canada Health Act and puts Alberta in a position where not only is it going to have two-tier health care that doesn't serve all Albertans equally, but it's going to have a significant impact on the amount of healthcare transfers that are made to the province. Every province that has two-tier healthcare, and to be clear, a number of provinces do, they do suffer reduction in the grants that come from the federal government, and Alberta is going to face the same fate. This Premier has decided that it is better for her well-heeled donors to be in a position where they can have private access to health care than it is for them to have, for all Albertans to have the same and equal access to health care. I think it's a disappointing choice. I think that ultimately it hurts the Canadian system. I do agree with Mr. Solberg insofar as, we do view almost all privatization as bad because we live north of the United States, where we watch a huge percentage of their GDP being dedicated only to healthcare. I don't think this is the solution. I don't think that breaking the Canada Health Act is the way to proceed with attracting doctors. I think that there's a lot more things that can be done with expanding scope of care, with expanding the way that healthcare is delivered in our province.
All right. Very interesting discussion this week. I thank you both for your time. All the best.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Matt Solberg from New West Public Affairs. From Decide Campaigns, President there, Stephen Carter. Talkback is coming up next here on News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. It's 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. Today, Canada, the war in the Middle East, and the Strait of Hormuz. And here's the main question for you today. Let's start with this. Let's see where the conversation takes us on Talkback today. U.S. President Donald Trump wants American allies to help the United States navigate tanker traffic through the Strait of Hormuz. And he has warned that there would be, quote, a very bad future for NATO if they refuse to secure and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. So here's the question. Would you support or oppose Canada being part of an allied effort to reopen and secure the Strait of Hormuz? Yes or no, why or why not? 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. Would you support or oppose Canada being part of an international effort to reopen and secure the Strait of Hormuz? That's what Donald Trump wants. And when you listen to what other leaders are saying, what our own Minister of National Defense is saying, or what the Prime Minister of the UK is saying, they're not entirely ruling it out. Both Canada's Defense Minister, David McGuinty, and UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer have said talks are happening. They both say they see no role for the country's armed forces in any offensive action in this war. They both say this is not our war. They both say this was a war that was started between the United States and Israel and Iran, and they have no interest in getting involved. But at the same time, they say they're talking, okay? They're talking among themselves about coming up with some kind of plan to help reopen and secure the Strait of Hormuz because of the impact that it's having on global energy prices and the cost of living, the negative consequences for the global economy. And we're seeing that play out right here in Canada. Everyone is paying much higher gas prices. But it's a demand from Donald Trump. And with that demand comes a warning that there will be some kind of consequence if his request is denied. So what do you think Canada should do? What should the Canadian government do? Let's say someday, in the not so distant future, a statement is released from Western leaders or NATO leaders, and it says, we've all agreed we have to send naval assets to the Gulf to help reopen and secure the Strait of Hormuz. And that means Canada is contributing whatever Canada can contribute. Maybe it's not much. Maybe it's some kind of symbolic contribution. But we're going to be part of some international effort, an allied effort, to reopen and secure the Strait of Hormuz, to get oil and gas shipments from that vital region moving again. Would you be okay with that? Or is that something you're totally against? What is your opinion on that? We're not talking about boots on the ground here. We're not talking about getting involved in offensive military operations, bombing Iran, but rather along with other countries, allied countries, protecting tanker traffic trying to get through the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most important shipping routes. Are you okay with that, or are you against that? 1-833-668-2577. Would you say we should do that? As long as we're part of some kind of international coalition, other like-minded countries getting oil and gas, fertilizer as well, I should say, through the Strait of Hormuz is in the best interests of everyone. It's in the best interest of the global economy. Or would you say no? We should avoid getting involved in any way. For any number of reasons. This is Donald Trump's war. This is Israel's war. They started it. And we should avoid getting involved in any way whatsoever, including sending any military assets to the Gulf region. Whether that's helping to navigate ships through the Strait of Hormuz or not, we should categorically rule that out. We didn't make this mess. We have no obligation to help clean it up. Just where do you stand on this particular aspect of this war and a potential role for Canada in it? 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. That's our call-in line. If you've never called before, just mention that. We'll make your call a priority. Should Canada, at Trump's request or behest, be part of an international coalition to help reopen and secure the Strait of Hormuz? I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is Talkback. And this is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
All right. So I was wondering, why isn't anybody calling Talkback? We have a pretty hot issue here. We have a problem with our phone line. You call the phone line and it says the number is out of service, which is not ideal when you're doing a call-in radio show. So let me kind of reset the topic here, and our engineers are having a look at the gremlins in the machine. All right. And hopefully this will be resolved shortly. And please accept my apologies to those of you who tried to participate already in our humble little radio show. Donald Trump in recent days has demanded, really, that U.S. allies help reopen and secure the Strait of Hormuz. The government has suggested that is something that is on the table. It has not been ruled out, although it does not want to be involved in any offensive operations in this war. Let's revisit again what Donald Trump said just a couple of days ago when he was taking questions on this. Play Trump 1, please, Leo.
Numerous countries have told me they are on their way. Can you give us a hint what they are, what that entails, how soon they might be there?
You mean who are the countries?
Yes, sir.
I'd rather not say yet, but we'll be announcing Marco Rubio and the various people that are doing that will be announcing. And I have to tell you, we have some that are really enthusiastic. They're coming already. They've already started to get there. It takes a little while to get there. It's like, in some cases, you have to travel an ocean. So it doesn't go that fast, but it'll go fast. And we have some that are fairly local that are doing it. But we'll give you a list. Some are very enthusiastic and some are less than enthusiastic, and I assume some will not do it. I think we have one or two that will not do it that we've been protecting for about 40 years at, tens of billions of dollars, Mr. Speaker. So I'll be reporting that to you in the House and the Senate, and I'll say, why are we protecting countries that don't protect us? And I've always felt that was a weakness of NATO. We were going to protect them, but I always said, when in need, they won't protect us. Now, this isn't need. Need would be one of the big boys. But I will say that we built the greatest military in the world, and we protect people. And if we need their mine boats, or if we need anything, any piece of apparatus that they may have because of a situation that they have, they should be jumping to help us, because we've helped them for years stay out of wars.
Donald Trump just a few days ago, so it seems he views this as kind of a test of NATO. He has said this repeatedly, we've been there for them. We've been there for all of these countries. Would they help us? Oh, I doubt they would help us. And he said that again a couple of days ago. Would NATO be there to help us if we ask for NATO's help? And he's sort of portraying this as, well, here's a chance for NATO to step up, which is kind of weird because while he's making this appeal, we want their help, we need their help, we have to get the strait open. In the same breath, he says, I don't do a hard sell on these people because we really don't need anyone. We have the greatest military in the world. 1-833-668-2577, 1-833-668-2577. I understand we are having some issues with our telephone system for call-in lines. You can just keep trying if you want to weigh in on this. We will have some other angles to explore with you as well, because there is a poll out today. Constantly, the polling industry in this country is doing polling. You can bet the government and the Liberal Party, they're doing polling on this as well. They're probably running focus groups. Where do you stand on this? And there's a new poll out that I'll run down the results for you. It's from the Angus Reid Institute on what Canadians think of any possible role for our country in this war, because it's pretty clear from this poll, 3,500 people, a fairly large sample size. There's really no support at all, and it crosses party lines as well. Tell you more about that right after we bring you up to date on the latest breaking news here on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We are working to restore our phone system for Talkback right now. Shouldn't be much longer. I mentioned there's a poll out today on what Canadians think of any possible role for our country in this war in the Middle East. It's pretty clear. There's no support at all for it. It's a new poll, was released this morning. It's from the Angus Reid Institute, and this is what it asked. This is pretty clear. Which of the following is closer to your view? And then there are three options. Canada's military should be involved in Iran. Canada's military should not be involved in Iran, or not sure, can't say. Of the nearly 3,500 respondents to the poll, 77% said Canada's military should not be involved in Iran. And that's the Canadian government's position when it comes to offensive operations. Only 10% said Canada's military should become involved. It's pretty consistent across political lines, although conservatives are more likely to say Canada's military should be involved, but it's still an overwhelming minority of conservative supporters who have that view at just 21%, while more than 60% say the military should just stay out of it. No role for the Canadian Armed Forces. Among the Liberal supporters, 88% said there's no role for Canada's military. And just 3%, like 3%, it's almost a rounding error, said Canada's military should be involved. But that is similar support levels for Bloc supporters, same result for the NDP. So across party lines, I mean, it's an overwhelming no. That's not really what we're discussing here today. We're not talking about Canadian military assets taking some sort of military action against Iran, playing the same sort of role that the United States military or the Israeli armed forces are playing. No. And the government has been pretty clear. It's ruled that out. And there are some questions among defense experts in this country. You've probably seen them quoted in the news media. They say it's unlikely Canada has much to offer anyway, just given the state of the Canadian Armed Forces right now. Stretched pretty thin. But what's not being ruled out, even at this point, in fact, our Minister of National Defense, David McGuinty, we played him earlier, said allied countries have been talking plans, talking options, talking about Gulf countries and the need to get tanker traffic in the Strait of Hormuz moving again. And that's what Donald Trump has asked for. And he has said in recent days, for example, in his interview with the Financial Times of London, that there would be, quote, a very bad future. A very bad future if his request is denied. Apparently, what he's really after is mine-sweeping ships, because European powers like the UK and France have more capability in that area than the United States does. Canada doesn't have any mine-sweeping ships at all in its naval fleet. Used to, not anymore. The last mine-sweeping vessels that Canada had were retired back in the 1990s, and they were never replaced. For example, Donald Trump was specifically asked about France. Has France said it was help? He was like, what has Macron said? This was the president's view on that. Let's play Trump 4, please.
Have you been speaking with the French President Macron about the coalition to reopen the Strait of Hormuz?
Yeah, I have spoken to him. He's been on a scale of 0 to 10. I'd say he's been an 8. Not perfect, but it's France.
We
don't expect perfect.
Are you confident that France will help with the reopening of Strait of Hormuz?
Yeah, I mean, sure. I think he's going to help. I mean, I'll let you know. I spoke to him yesterday. I don't do a hard sell on them because my attitude is we don't need anybody. We're the strongest nation in the world. We have the strongest military by far in the world. We don't need them. But it's interesting. I'm almost doing it in some cases, not because we need them, but because I want to find out how they react. Because I've been saying for years that if we ever did need them, they won't be there. Not all of them, but they won't be there. I was very surprised with the United Kingdom, because the United Kingdom, 2 weeks ago, I said, why don't you send some ships over? And he really didn't want to do it. I said, you don't want to do it. We've been with you. You're our oldest ally. And we spend a lot of money on, NATO and all of these things to protect you. I mean, we're protecting them. We're working with them on Ukraine. Ukraine's thousands of miles away, separated by a vast ocean. We don't have to do that, but we did it. Well, Biden did it. I mean, I have to be honest with you. Biden got taken to the cleaners. But we worked with them in Ukraine. We don't need to work with them in Ukraine. And then they tell us that we have a mine ship around, and they don't want to do it. I think it's terrible.
That was Donald Trump a few days ago when he was taking questions about his appeal to try and get allies to help get the Strait of Hormuz open. All right, I know we've been having problems with our 1833 line today. And again, I want to apologize for that. Not sure what happened. Couldn't have happened at a worse time if you're hosting a national call-in radio show, but stuff breaks and we call people and they try to fix it. So look, I do have an alternative phone number. If you want to get in on the conversation here, gosh, I'd love to hear somebody else speak instead of me. It's a local Calgary number, 403-686-9731. So if you're in the local Calgary area, why don't you give that number a call and, let's talk about it. If not, 1-403-686-9731. 403-686-9731 is an alternative phone number until we get our 1833 line back up and running. Give it a try. Love to hear your voice today. You have no idea how much. I'm Rob Snow. It's Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Yes, it is Talkback, but don't use that number until I get the all clear from engineering that number is actually up and running. We had something wrong with our 1833 number today. Let me give you an alternate number just for today. It's a local Calgary number, 403-686-9731. 403-686-9731. And we have some people from the Alberta area who've called in on that very line. And up first, Schminder in Calgary. Schminder?
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Gosh, it's so good to hear your voice. Let me tell you, Schminder.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
What's your opinion on this? Let's say Canada sends ships to help navigate through the Strait of Hormuz, and it's part of some sort of international effort because that's what Trump needs right now. What would you think of that?
I don't know if it's what Trump needs. I don't agree with that we should be part of the war, but it's what the world kind of needs right now. If there's an energy crisis, it's going to affect us here. We might not be low on fuel, but we'll suffer from higher cost of goods with lower shipping rates, and there will be our supply chain will be affected even here significantly. So it's not really a matter of a choice. We're going to have to do it, right?
You think we have to do it? Okay.
You've got 20 million barrels. This is the largest supply shock the world's ever faced. If this continues, you'll see food shortages. You might see people die. You might see famine somewhere. Our shipping, even our goods and services, we won't get them. We'll have extreme inflation. Ships won't be able to get the fuel they need, the diesel, the bunker fuel that they need to run their ships. If this continues for a long time. So yes, I don't think it's part of helping the war because I could care less about that. It's more about what we need to do to get it open so that we can get our goods and services, or the world can get the goods and services. We have our own energy, but in North America, but what does Europe do? They import all their energy. What does Asia do? They import all their energy.
Sure. So it is so important for the economy that you think there might be a role to play for Canada here.
I don't think the choice is going to be there. I don't think
we have no choice but to be part of it.
It's going to be taken away from us soon if this continues for too long. Because obviously the regime has hunkered down in their bunkers and they're far from the U.S. bombs. And last I read from Dawn News is that 70% of their launches are still intact. So as much as they claim that, as much as the U.S. and Israel claim that they've knocked out their capabilities, they haven't. And they're playing a war of attrition, much like Ukraine is, but at a different scale and a different method. But it's still a war of attrition. Right.
Gotcha.
So,
all right. Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to take another call, Schminder. Connor in Central Alberta. Connor, thank you for calling today. It's great to hear your voice. What's your opinion?
Well, thanks, Rob. First of all, I got to say, it's always good to hear yours too. I can listen to you without interruption, but I appreciate the fact that you want somebody else in there. So,
sure thing.
It's not a straight. Yeah, of course, Rob. It's not a straightforward situation where an easy decision, I think, can be reached. I think McGuinty has a good point about we were never consulted, and it's kind of like, well, why should we go if we weren't even consulted? And I'm certainly not worried about what Trump says about repercussions if you don't go, because he says a lot of things that he doesn't mean or that he'll never follow through with. But I look at it this way, Rob, like originally they went in there because of the threat of the nuclear missiles and stuff like that. And I think if you are in the G7 or just a first world Western nation and you think that there is potential to be harmed by that, was what that regime was and the capacity that they had or were gaining to do stuff, I think that you are obligated to go in there and do whatever you can to protect. And I get that we probably don't have much to offer. And I have no idea what it is that we do have to offer, but not being consulted, I don't think is a good enough reason not to go. And to be frank, Rob, I think that I'm a little surprised by the numbers there in the survey saying that 77 or whatever it is of us are choosing that are thinking Canada should not go at any capacity, I think is what that meant. And I disagree with that.
Well, again, just to outline what that poll actually said. Should Canada's military be involved in Iran? That was the polling question. Canada's military should be involved in Iran, or Canada's military should not be involved in Iran. I don't view this as Canada's military being involved in Iran so much as it is in the region, as to the previous caller's point, and trying to secure a vital shipping route for the sake of the global economy.
I was looking at that as the same situation.
Okay.
Because from what I'm hearing is that there would be no involvement whatsoever by Canada, and I don't agree with that.
Okay. No offensive operations. Mr. McGuinty keeps saying we're not part of the group that is prosecuting this war. That's the language he keeps using. Israel and the United States are prosecuting this war.
Yeah. What does that really mean, though, Rob? I mean, that's kind of vague. What does that mean exactly, to prosecute it?
Well, they're the one dropping the bombs. I guess that's what it means.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, is that what they're saying, though?
Like, do you see a difference between, like, let's say we had the CF-18s and they were carrying bombs and dropping bombs on Iran, as opposed to sending, I don't know, we have a dozen frigates. What if we sent a half a dozen of them and we use them as, to help navigate tanker traffic? Is there a difference there for you?
Yeah, I think there is. I think that, to me, there is, and I don't know if I can speak about that politically, but I think that I would be more comfortable with going and helping out in the capacity of opening up the seaway there. But going in and bombing them when you were never consulted on it anyway, that I don't necessarily agree with.
That might be a step too far. All right, very interesting. Thank you. Be right back on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We are asking, should Canada be part of an international coalition that would help reopen and secure the Strait of Hormuz? Linda, up next, Southern Alberta. Hello, Linda.
Hello.
Hi, Linda. Good to hear from you. What's your opinion, Linda?
Well, my answer is no, because I don't really trust Trump. We don't know where his mind is half the time. And when it comes to Iran, they don't know exactly what weapons they have left, right? So do they have weapons that will get missiles into the strait?
Right. Okay.
So then, you're sending ships in there and they get blown out of the water. Then what? Then you are drawn in.
Well, yeah, and then you've got a big problem on your hands, then, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's my concern. I think Trump needs to wear this for a while. I think he's in big trouble at home.
Needs to wear it for a while.
Yeah. I think we're doing the fear factor right away, as in saying, well, if you this is what's going to happen to you. This is what's going to happen if we don't get this stuff moving through. But we've seen what's happened to Cuba, right? when they haven't gotten their oil and stuff, are we being really sympathetic over there?
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Just keep the ships out of it. Whatever ships we could contribute, keep them out of it. All right.
I would say it if it was all said and done, and you're just going there to make sure now that there is no mines and stuff. But if you're going with the threat of being hit by missiles or whatever, I don't think that's right either.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, thank you. Let's go to Ahmed in Calgary. Ahmed. Hi, Ahmed.
Hello.
Yeah, hi there. What's your opinion?
Well,
Very good.
It's kind of a rock and a hard place type of position, isn't it? And with that clip that you played of Trump, he says one thing and then doubles and starts backpedaling because Biden did it. So it's okay for Biden not to do something, but for him to do something? Does the guy ever even listen to himself?
Yeah.
Personally, he
there's even a moment in that clip, Ahmed, where he says, it's not like I'm doing a hard sell on these people. We don't even need them.
That's exactly it. We don't even need them. But I just want to see what people do. So it's him playing games, and it's him finding out, okay, so you'll do what I want, and you won't do what I want. So I'll work with you, but I won't work with you?
Right. So you think he's being transactional? He always faces this accusation. Everything with him is transactional. Do you think that's part of it here? Or all of it here?
Comments like that? Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So what should Canada do if that's the case then?
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, like I said, well, the previous caller brought up a very valid point, and I never even thought of that. We go in there to quote-unquote help, and they sink some of our equipment. Well, now we're drawn into it. Do we really want to get involved?
Yeah. Yeah. What if a drone hits one of our ships?
Exactly.
And it's in the news that the next day, or it's on it's all over the news. Canadian soldiers are injured or heaven forbid killed.
Right.
How are Canadians going to react to something like that? Right. Yeah. Yeah. Got to stop here. Thank you, Ahmed. Yeah. Bye-bye. More of your calls after the news. A full hour of calls just ahead, folks. This is News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Different number for you today. Different call-in line, local Calgary number. Having problems with the 1-833 number today. Apologize for that. The Calgary number is 403-686-9731. 403-686-9731. Welcome to hour number 2, everyone, of Talkback. Donald Trump wants U.S. allies to help reopen and secure the Strait of Hormuz. Should Canada be part of any international coalition in that effort? Right back to our phone lines. James is in Calgary. James, thanks for calling. You're on the air. What's your opinion, James?
Just wanted to add a piece of information. Canada is already involved in this because we have Irving Oil in New Brunswick. They process about 320,000 barrels a day. Most of that oil comes from Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Most of it comes from the United States.
Okay, that's Canadian oil.
And what doesn't
from the United States?
And what doesn't? Yeah, and what doesn't come from the United States still qualifies as imported oil. And most of the other imported oil that comes internationally comes from either West Africa or the North Sea. Very little comes from the Middle East, if at all.
I'll leave it at that.
You're mistaken
more
on that.
Than Irving Oil knows. So, okay.
Well, you're mistaken on that, sir. Yeah, you're mistaken on that. Thank you. Let's go to Sean in Cambridge. Hi, Sean.
Hi, good morning. Good afternoon. Thank goodness for Canada-wide calling, eh?
Yeah. I suppose so. Today, yes. Yes, you're right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I am against Canada getting involved. One thing my mom taught me when I was growing up, you got to clean up your own mess. I mean, Donald Trump did not consult with any of his allies. They've had several retired generals on TV who said they precisely did not go into Iran under previous administrations because they looked at it and it was really not doable. They knew they would end up in a giant mess like this. He wants other countries to go into the Strait of Hormuz with their ships because he basically wants cannon fodder. You know, the Strait of Hormuz is known in naval circles as the kill box. It's 30 miles wide at its narrowest point. There's limited maneuverability. Iran doesn't have like a huge naval presence. It's mostly shore batteries and drones. If you want to make the Strait of Hormuz safe, you're going to have to bomb the land or put boots on the ground. I don't know this is what happens when people who have limited knowledge of military strategy try to run a war. Quite honestly, it's really not good. And even if we do go in there, we're going to end up with ships on the bottom, I'm afraid.
All right, so stay out of it would be your opinion. Sean in Cambridge, moving right along. Who do we have up next here? Dean in Calgary. Hello, Dean.
Hi. Hi, Rob.
Hi, Dean. What's your opinion on this, Dean?
I think my own is first and foremost, it's so mind-boggling the way we are so selfish, and then we are talking about because we don't want to pay high price for the gas. That was what concerns everybody right now. We don't care about people, innocent people that are being died, that are being displaced. Nobody even talking about them. So my saying is that why don't we, Canada and all other allies, talk to the Trump on how to firstly stop this nonsense that is going on, killing people everywhere, up and down. Why are we talking about because, the economy is going to be bad? That's what everybody is concerned about. So those people that they are dying, that they are being displaced, their life doesn't matter. Is that who we are as a human being? For me, I've seen people calling, people saying, oh, we should go, we should not go. It shouldn't be a discussion. We should talk to Trump or whoever, our ally, to stop this fight. So if the pressure is given to the fact that, okay, let's stop. What are we going to do for this thing to stop, first and foremost? We don't want innocent people to be killing anymore. Then we can talk about, how are we going to reopen this thing? For me, if this is what we want to pay as a price for the high price, we should be paying it so we can seize it. I don't know if you get my point, Rob.
I think I do. You say we're moving to the second step before we address the first step. The first step should be trying to end the war.
Yes.
And then let's talk about securing the Strait of Hormuz and getting energy flowing and fertilizer flowing and goods flowing again. But the first priority should be, let's stop the war.
Yeah. If we are not being selfish.
I understand that. It's a very valid point. Yeah. You think it's selfish to go in any other order.
Yeah.
I think it's a valid point of view, sir.
But Canada should not go at all, whether securing, whether anything. We don't need to go there. And it's not because that we don't want to support our ally or anything. We can't just be supporting blindly. We cannot just doing something because somebody is our ally and they are committing something that doesn't even make sense. And we just think our ally, it doesn't really matter, we should go. It shouldn't be a discussion. We are not going to go, but there should be another pressure that how do we stop this fight? That should be what allies should be discussing right now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Yep, for your opinion. Let me give you that phone number again, that local phone number for today only. We should have our toll-free line back up and running tomorrow. The number for Talkback today, 403-686-9731. 403-686-9731. We have 3 or 4 lines available there, and the wait won't be too long, and I'll take more of your calls coming up next. I'm Rob Snow. It's Talkback, and this is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Donald Trump wants allies to help reopen and secure the Strait of Hormuz. The Canadian government says it's in talks with other countries about options in the Gulf. Options in the Gulf. Okay. But should Canada be part of an international coalition to reopen and secure the Strait of Hormuz? back to our phone lines today. Marshall up next. Marshall. Hi, Marshall.
Hey,
on the car
Rob,
phone.
how's it going?
Very good, Marshall. Thank you. Yeah, hear you just fine. What's your opinion here?
So there's a lot to unpack on this, obviously, but I think the short tweet of it is that we should be involved in some capacity with the security of the Strait of Hormuz, if for no other reason to increase our military spending, which is part of what we're trying to go for as our economic platform. Like if we can increase our military power in Canada by taking action and helping in another situation, it can only benefit us. And by spending that money internally, it increases our GDP, which generally makes us look better on a global scale as well. A little bit of a Machiavellian view, I guess. But
all right. What about we didn't make this mess and it's not up to us to clean it up? Because that's a popular view today as well. How do you view that?
Well, I definitely don't think that we should be involved in Iran specifically, but I see the mess as like a lithium fire on the highway. Like you're not going to get involved. You're not going to touch it, but you're going to make sure it doesn't blow up into something else.
All right. I understand that. Okay. Thank you. Let's go to Brad is in Calgary as well. Brad, thanks for waiting. Brad, you're up next. First time caller.
Yep, first time caller. Listened to you quite a bit.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate that, Brad. Yeah, my pleasure. What's your opinion on this, Brad?
I think 100% we should be there. Our next door neighbors got some problems. They might have started them, but we should be in there doing at least a little bit damage control. We've got a lot of old frigates. We could probably insure them and remotely run them, for lack of something better to say. And let's get out there and help them out. We need to. Why are we not the first? We don't have to wait for our other neighbors down the block to have a discussion. We should be sticking up for our neighbors to the south and getting at it. We're in the middle of trade negotiations. This couldn't hurt. And that's about all I got to say.
Could be used as leverage in the trade negotiations. Look, we did you a solid here, sort of thing.
Sure, absolutely. You know, the guy's no dummy. He's laying it out there for you. We should be looking at it right now. And Carney doesn't need to call 25 people. He should just be man up and say, let's help him out.
Going to be part of it. All right. Thank you. Rick is in Red Deer. Let's go to Rick. Hi, Rick.
Hello?
Yeah. Hi, Rick. What's your opinion, Rick?
Hi, Rob. My opinion, we'll start with this. It's United States out of warships. Why can't they escort these vessels through there if it's just a matter of needing warships to escort vessels? And they also need to ask the question, why did the United States pull back their aircraft carriers 1,000 kilometers from Iran? There's a reason they want allies to go in there, and it's for cannon fodder. It is for, they know very well that if any of NATO goes in there, their ships will be struck. And then we'll be obliged to be in the war. And United States, Donald Trump is just trying to get himself out of the mess he created, because they're going to need boots on the ground, and they're going to want NATO boots on the ground to legitimize this whole endeavor. So they want NATO to go in there knowing full well they're going to get struck. They're not, United States isn't sending their boats in there because they know they'll get struck. So it's a ruse to suck us into this war.
A ruse. Okay. Yeah, I was going to call it sort of a bait and switch. Come in, help navigate this shipping route, but you think it's sort of a bait and switch to get NATO more drawn into this war?
Completely. Like I said, the United States isn't lacking in ships. They got the most ships of any military on this planet. They don't need more ships. They just don't want theirs to get hit because that'll sink Donald Trump's chances going into the midterms. So
all right, that's an interesting way to look at it.
NATO ships going down.
Okay. Thank you, Rick in Red Deer. So really, like so many topics on Talkback, there's really no clear consensus on this. Like to know where you stand. Let me give you that phone number again. It's kind of a today only phone number while we work on our toll-free line, 403-686-9731. Okay. It's a Calgary area number, 403-686-9731. Lines available now to have your say on this hot topic today on Talkback. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Should Canada be part of an international effort to reopen and secure the Strait of Hormuz? That's a request, if you will. Some might say a demand. Some might say a threat from U.S. President Donald Trump. Robert in Calgary. Thanks for calling, Robert. Thanks for waiting today. You're on the line.
Hello, Rob. Yes, let's do everything we possibly can do naval-wise. We have some extremely important U.S. trade negotiations coming up. Let's make those negotiations as smooth as possible. But let's give him the old Carney special. Let's promise Trump everything that we have, we will send, but we just won't deliver it.
I see. You're calling that the Carney special?
Yeah, well, he does a lot,
Why do you
makes a
call
lot of
it
promises, but
I
don't want to get off of your topic. He makes a lot of promises. More in reality, though, what do we actually have to send? We have a couple of frigates, I think you said. Where are they
We
located?
have 12 Halifax-class frigates, yes. We have 12
are they
frigates.
all seaworthy, ready to go? How long will it take to re-equip them and get them over there? Certainly, Carney could say, yeah, we're going to give you everything we got, but we won't get them there until maybe July. So Trump likes it.
I don't know how long it would take to get them there. Maybe there are some in the region already. I'm just not too sure.
Yeah, but I think we're trying to get Trump to like us before we get into these very, very important U.S. trade negotiations.
Sure. But you think there's an opportunity to like curry favor with the president? Smooth some water.
Over some water. Just give him some lip service. He gives that to the world anyway, so let's give him some of his own.
Gotcha, Robert. Okay, thank you. Dallas in Cambridge, Ontario. Dallas, thanks for calling, Dallas.
Yes, my friend. How are you today?
Very good, Dallas. Yep, thank you. What's your opinion on the topic?
Rick in Red Deer kind of stole my thunder because he said everything that I wanted to say. Ultimately, yes, Mr. Trump doesn't want to send his ships in there. One of his gets hit and goes down, he's got to answer for it. Somebody else's ship, that's on them. I hope all these leaders that are getting together to discuss possible resolutions to this are looking somehow, I don't know exactly how it would happen, to get around Mr. Trump and Mr. Netanyahu and have some sort of a diplomatic solution to it. Quite frankly, as far as I've known for a long time, the Iranians are not closed to discussion. Now, obviously, that'll take some time, but at the end of the day, rather than sending a bunch of ships in there and hoping that it's going to solve the problem, no, that's just dragging everybody into it, and that's exactly what he wants.
Okay, so stay out of it. That's your opinion. Stay out of it. Steer clear of it.
Pretty much, other than on a diplomatic scale, if there's health issues that we can help out with, our military can send medical people in there to help out and stuff like that, well then sure. But other than that, no, that's his problem.
No?
He started it.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And you hear it from some of the top people in government. We weren't consulted about it. We're not party to it. We're not prosecuting this war. We don't see us getting involved in this war. It might even be an illegal war. All right. Okay. Thank you, Dallas, for your call today. More of your calls just ahead as soon as we bring you right up to date on the latest breaking news. Let me give you that number again. 403-686-9731. A today only phone number for Talkback. 403-686-9731. Our call-in line today on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Should Canada be part of an international coalition to help reopen and secure the Strait of Hormuz? That's our topic today. They're talking options in the Gulf. Even according to our own Minister of National Defense, that's happening all the time, around the clock. Chris in Kitchener up next. Hello, Chris.
Hi, Rob.
Yeah, hi, Chris.
Sounds like the world
Thanks for calling.
it sounds like the world is coming up with the same troubles with your phone issues, because every day with Mr. Trump, you never know what you're going to get the next day. Yes, Canada should provide what we can for everybody else, but did not Mr. Trump initiate with Prime Minister Netanyahu in Israel to do this in Iran without consulting anybody else?
That's right. You're right. Yes.
Okay, so he's opened up a boatload of worms that the rest of us, as a coalition in NATO, have to clean up. Now, I don't support what they're doing, according to President Trump, that this was going to be cleaned up in a few days. Guess what we're cleaning up? Global oil, everything for the rest of the world. I mean, there's ramifications. And to threaten the rest of NATO countries, if we don't help now, I mean, what do you do with somebody like that? I don't know. But put our support in. I agree with it, with what we can.
All right. Yeah. Begrudgingly,
it's
it
just
sounds
logical.
as though.
It's just
Begrudgingly.
crazy with Cuba now. You're hearing, so I'm going to take Cuba and stuff. This is a guy in a sandbox. He's got a lot of stuff to play with, and he's playing with too much at too soon. Like finish one thing, and then start on the next, and then try to help the rest of the world out instead of trying to be the center of attention. And I'd also like to hear from Prime Minister Netanyahu on his thoughts. I haven't heard anything on that, like how it's going from the Israel part of it.
I'd like to hear from Prime Minister Carney. I understand he's had a busy year and he's taking a bit of a holiday, and today's St. Patrick's Day. But
I understand, and all he's trying to do is, I'm a conservative, but Carney, he's taken the backseat approach. I think a lot of leaders are doing, is just sitting back and waiting to see what happens, because you wake up the next morning, what the heck's going on now? But the main thing is we've bought into a global economy. Let's focus on that. And after that, I don't know what else to say outside of just sit back and watch.
And I'll wrap it up there, Chris. Thank you. Help whatever we can, even though it's not our mess, is what Chris is saying. I believe Lynn is in Calgary. Hello, Lynn. Thanks for calling. You're on the line.
Hello,
What's your
Ron.
opinion, Lynn?
Hi.
Hi there.
Hi. I don't have much knowledge about it, but I do have an opinion. The strait being closed obviously is causing financial stress for many countries in the world. But I have a question. I heard just from someone else who heard it on the news or read it, that one of Trump's top military leaders recently resigned because he had found no information indicating that Iran was close to producing nuclear weapons. Have you heard that?
It's in the news today that his head of counterterrorism resigned.
Okay. So
top U.S. counterterrorism official resigns over the Iran war, the highest-ranking Trump administration official to quit in opposition to the conflict, said pressure from Israel pushed the president into war against Iran. That is in the New York Times today.
Yeah. I haven't read the news yet. I've had appointments, but I find that, pretty strong evidence that things the war shouldn't have been started in the first place. Trump didn't consult, as you've said, and other people have said, with the U.S. Or his own Congress before starting this war. Now he's demanding that NATO countries join the war, and he's threatening if we don't that there'll be consequences. He's already threatened Canada, Denmark, and he's after Cuba, and he's been in Venezuela, and I just think he's dangerous, and this war is something we should not be involved in. Trump has no respect for NATO, and I don't believe he can be trusted. And some people say maybe we should help him out so that it helps our negotiations on the trade war with the U.S., but I don't think anything's going to help those negotiations. I believe he's going to, do whatever he wants, as he has so far. And too many lives have been lost already in this war that children, many of them, and I believe it shouldn't have started in the first place. And if we support it, even to help the global economy, that we're contributing to that, and NATO is going to be weak one way or the other. I don't think we can negotiate with that president.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for your call today, Lynn in Calgary. Yeah. This is how the New York Times writes this story about this top Trump official resigning over the war in Iran. One of the United States top counterterrorism officials resigned on Tuesday, citing his opposition to the war in Iran and what he says was Israel's influence over the Trump administration's policy, a sign of emerging divisions in the Republican coalition. The official, Joe Kent, is the first senior member of the administration to quit over the war. The seemingly open-ended nature of the U.S.-Israeli war in Iran has created strong divisions among Trump supporters. An anti-interventionist wing of the coalition, which supported President Trump because of his criticism of long overseas conflicts, has quickly become uneasy with the war, which has lasted 18 days with no immediate sign of ending. Quote, I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Mr. Kent, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, wrote in a letter to the president, Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. His resignation came as a surprise, according to the report in that newspaper today. Posted about 2 hours ago now. A new number for you today. We're having problems with our toll-free line, the 1-833 line. It's 403-686-9731, 403-686-9731 to have your say on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Kashish is in Calgary today. Let's get to Kashish's call, please. Kashish?
Hi, Rob. How you doing?
Yeah, hi there. What's your opinion on this? Should we send ships there to help in the Strait of Hormuz?
Okay, so just like you referred to this resignation, that kind of sums it up. If you give me a minute, I'll say what I think. So this war was started by Netanyahu and pretty much forced on U.S., and that's the stated position from the U.S. officials, including this resignation. Even U.S. public is against this war. So right now, what I think, it's a trap by Israel, by Iran, and even Saudis. They want U.S. to stay there for long. And Mr. Trump wants everybody else to join in. And this is a trap. Why? because you're going to get so close to Iranians, they're totally destroyed. There's no match between Iran and the U.S. Israel. What they want is actual troops there so they can kill them. So my suggestion, if I could have any, stay out of it. This is the only thing, and that's what you can see from a lot of allies, U.S. allies. They are being sensible, including Canada, England, and others, by saying no thanks.
Okay, stay out of it. Don't get involved. Don't send our ships there.
Please.
Please. Okay. What if we get some kind of request? Bahrain, UAE, Oman, Kuwait, whatever. They're saying we need some help here. We can't have this strait closed like this. Oil prices are only keep going up. Energy prices will keep going up. There'll be fertilizer shortages all over the world. What about that side of it?
That is the truth, but here's the thing, like some of your callers already suggested, by prolonging this war, you're actually going to, get this mess even bigger. So the solution is to
make
end
a bigger
this
mess.
war. Yes.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Good to hear from you today. Reuters reporting right now, U.S. President Donald Trump said the United States has been informed by most of its NATO allies they do not wish to get involved with the country's military operation in Iran, a move he described as a very foolish mistake. But Trump gave no indication that he plans to punish NATO allies for their stances. He said this during he was taking questions in the Oval Office. Quote, I think NATO is making a very foolish mistake. Everyone agrees with us, but they don't want to help. And we as the United States have to remember that because we think it's pretty shocking. Khalid up next. Also in Calgary today. Khalid. Hi, Khalid.
Hi, Rob. Good afternoon.
Yeah, hi there. What's your opinion on this?
I think we should never, as previous callers said, we shouldn't get involved in this in any way. The moment we help in opening the Hormuz Strait, that means we are in the war, because Iran said they will keep it close to the American and Israeli vessels or their allies in the area, as long as the war is going on. They're being bombarded by Americans and Israeli. We should first call for the stopping the war, and further we can push for all the tension in the Middle East is created by Israel and Palestine. A conflict. Israel has a right on that land offered by after the war. They went into in 1947 United Nations Resolution 242, I guess, talk about the two states. So Canada is behind that. Recently, Carney was supported the idea of two states. But what happened?
Sure.
For 48, there are wars. 48, 56.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, 76, 73.
I know
all of these.
Yeah. I don't want to go back decades. We only have to, in this case, go back 18 days. This war is 18 days old, and you're saying just stay out of it, which is a popular opinion today. It's not the unanimous opinion today, but let's stay focused on the current events. A few more of your calls ahead here on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
I do want to thank everyone who called today at our alternate phone number after we were having some problems with our 1-833 line today. Really appreciate that for being engaged in the discussion. It's an important topic, important time for the world. Reza is up next. Reza.
Good morning,
Hi,
Rob.
Reza.
How are you?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. What's your opinion on Canada maybe sending some assets to the Gulf for the Strait of Hormuz?
Yes. You know, I'm Canadian Iranian, and I'm against stopping war at any cost. But at the same time, I don't want Canada involved in any project, Hormuz or anywhere helping other country at all, because it's from our taxpayer and we have lots of issues in our country in here. I don't think it's a wise decision for Canada to go there and involve themselves. But U.S. and Israel, right now, they are in good hand and they are in good shape. And I think they are in the right direction. And they are close to winning the whole things. And regime, I guess, is going to collapse very soon. And in the other hand, U.S. have an interest. They are waiting for Saudi Arabia, Emirates, and Qatar to be invested those $1 billion that promised to Trump to go and invest in U.S. So they need peace in the region. And at the same time, China, India, and all Japan and Korea, they need oil to pass through those Hormuz. So they can pay for that, and they can support, and they can split the cost between themselves. But I don't think it's going to last. I don't think it's going to last long, this situation.
All right. Thank you. You called the other day and said it would last days. I mean, there is a report that, they're throwing out this thing September. September might not be over till September. One more. We don't have a lot of time here, but let's fit Angie in. Thank you for calling, Angie.
Hi, good day, Rob. How are you?
Yeah, very good, Angie. Thank you. What's your
Thanks for the opportunity. You know what? Trump has been collecting tariffs for months and over a year. He's got a lot of money, and it's a long-term plan for use of this money. He's taken the 2 ship containers of oil, and he's holding ransom. He's got oil for U.S. This is all connected, like his oil and everything. And now he's helping Israel to fight Iran. Why should all of this money and everything he's putting towards cost of going into war with Iran? He's a smart man. And why should we get involved? We didn't want this war. He wanted to take over Canada as the 51st state. He wanted to control Greenland. All of these have a background work. He's got some other plans in his pocket. Canada should abstain from this war.
Abstain. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for all your calls today. Give me an update on the phone line tomorrow. Until then, the latest breaking news coming up next here on News Radio.